Welcome to Non-Fiction Reviews. Orientalism is a seminal work by Edward Said, published in 1978. In it, he analyzes the way the West has historically represented the Orient, a term which he defines as encompassing the Middle East, North Africa, and Asia. Said argues that the representation of the Orient by the West is based on a long-standing set of assumptions and stereotypes that present it as exotic, primitive, and uncivilized. These representations have had significant consequences, ranging from cultural imperialism to the justification of Western imperialism and colonization. Through a careful analysis of literary, artistic, and political texts, Said demonstrates how the West has constructed an image of the Orient that serves its own interests, while erasing the complexity and diversity of the peoples and cultures that inhabit these regions. Said's central argument in Orientalism is that the West has historically constructed the Orient as its opposite, as the other, that it defines itself against. This construction is based on a set of binary oppositions, such as West versus East, rational versus irrational, modern versus traditional, that present the West as superior and the Orient as inferior. Said shows how these oppositions have been perpetuated through a wide range of cultural and political texts, including literature, travel writing, art, and political discourse. One of the key themes of Orientalism is the idea that knowledge is always situated and influenced by power relations. Said argues that the knowledge produced about the Orient by Western scholars and writers is always embedded in a set of power relations that privilege the West and marginalize the Orient. This knowledge, in turn, has real-world consequences, shaping policies and actions that affect the lives of people in the Orient. Another important theme of Orientalism is the idea that the West has used its representations of the Orient to justify its own imperialism and colonization. Said argues that Western writers and scholars have constructed the Orient as a place in need of Western intervention and control, portraying it as backward, uncivilized, and in need of Western modernization. This representation has been used to justify colonialism and imperialism in the Orient, and has had lasting impacts on the region. Orientalism has been highly influential in a range of fields, including literary and cultural studies, history, and postcolonial studies. Its critique of the representation of the Orient by the West has been taken up by scholars and activists working to challenge dominant narratives and to promote a more nuanced understanding of the complex realities of the Middle East, North Africa, and Asia. Said's work has also been criticized for being overly simplistic and for neglecting the agency of people in the Orient in shaping their own representations and histories. Here are 5 takeaways from the book. 1. Orientalism is a form of Western domination. Said argues that Orientalism is a means of asserting Western cultural, political, and economic dominance over the East. By creating an image of the East as exotic, backward, and inferior, Western societies can justify their own power and superiority. 2. Orientalism is a form of knowledge production. Said contends that Orientalism is not simply a set of attitudes or prejudices, but a complex system of knowledge production that has deep roots in Western intellectual history. Western scholars have constructed a vast body of knowledge about the East that reinforces Orientalist stereotypes and assumptions. 3. Orientalism is a form of representation. Said shows how Western texts, art, and media have consistently represented the East in highly stylized and homogeneous ways. These representations are not neutral or objective, but rather reflect the biases and interests of Western societies. 4. Orientalism has real-world consequences. Said argues that Orientalist representations of the East have had real-world consequences, such as imperialism, colonialism, and cultural domination. By perpetuating Orientalist stereotypes, Western societies have justified their exploitation and domination of Eastern cultures and societies. 5. Orientalism can be challenged and resisted. Finally, Said suggests that Orientalism is not an unassailable force, but rather something that can be challenged and resisted. By highlighting the diversity and complexity of Eastern cultures and societies, and by exposing the biases and limitations of Orientalist representations, it is possible to create a more equitable and just relationship between the West and the East. Overall, Orientalism is a powerful critique of the way the West has historically constructed the Orient, and the impact this construction has had on the region and on the world more broadly. It challenges readers to think critically about the assumptions and stereotypes that shape their own understandings of the world, and to consider the political and ethical implications of knowledge production. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more content on non-fiction. Let us know in the comments what other non-fiction books you like to see on our channel.